tree that does it all. It's not just a tree. It's a sugar factory, a rooftop, a medicine cabinet, and in some places, a way of life. Meet the Palmyra palm, also called the tree of 1,000 uses. On the surface, it looks like any other tree dotting the rural landscapes of India, Cambodia, Thailand, or Sri Lanka. But dig a little deeper, and you'll discover something remarkable. Every single part of this towering giant serves a purpose. And not just in theory. These uses fuel economies, feed families, and support entire ecosystems. But here's what makes the Palmyra so intriguing. It doesn't ask for much. It thrives in the kind of blistering heat and bone-dry soil that kills most crops. It can stand for decades, unwavering in the face of droughts, storms, and shifting climates. Where other trees struggle, this one endures, quietly powering lives around it. For generations, rural farmers have risked their lives climbing these 30-meter giants, often barefoot and without safety equipment, just to collect a few liters of sweet sap dripping from its flowers. And what do they do with it? Some turn it into Jaggery, a golden, mineral-rich sweetener, still handmade over open fires. Others let it ferment into Toddy, a locally brewed drink that brings communities together at the end of a hard day. And that's just the sap, the jelly-like fruit inside the tree's massive dark clusters. It's a summer favorite, eaten cold with ice and syrup in places like Tamil Nadu. The leaves become roofs and baskets. The trunks become kitchen fuel. The roots even have medicinal uses. Over 800 different ways this one tree gives and gives and gives. But the most surprising part? In a world chasing industrial farming and fast profits, the Palmyra story is one of patience. It could take up to 30 years to fully mature. That means many of the people planting these trees today may never live to see them at their peak. So why do they still do it? Because this tree is more than just a crop, it's a legacy. In today's video, join factoryX as we take you into the unseen world of Palmyra palm farming. From scorching sun and dangerous climbs to ancient techniques passed down through generations. This is the story of one of the world's most underappreciated but vital trees. And what you're about to discover might just change the way you look at nature. To understand why the Palmyra palm is so revered, you have to start with where it grows, and more importantly, where nothing else will. Picture a landscape so dry that the ground cracks open like a broken plate. The wind stings, the sun scorches, and rain. It shows up late and leaves early. In much of rural India, especially in states like Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, this is the norm. Crops fail, rivers dry out, and farmers face a constant battle just to keep the land alive. But in the middle of all this hardship stands the Palmyra. This tree doesn't just survive in the heat, it owns it. Its thick trunk acts like a water vault, storing moisture from the monsoon season and slowly releasing it during the long dry months. Its deep root system reaches into unforgiving soil that most plants wouldn't dare touch, and it needs almost no irrigation. It's the definition of low maintenance, yet high impact. For communities living in these regions, that's not just impressive, it's life-saving. Planting a Palmyra begins not with high-tech equipment or modern farming manuals, but with something much more ancient and surprisingly delicate. First, the dried fruits are soaked in sand, often buried beneath layers of earth to trap moisture and heat. This triggers germination, a process that can take weeks. Timing is everything. Most farmers plant between April and June, just before the monsoon arrives, hoping to give the fragile seedlings a head start before the real heat kicks in. Once the seeds sprout, farmers dig shallow pits and gently tear open the fruit to bury the sprouted root tip. And that's it. From that point forward, the tree is mostly left to nature. No daily watering, no pesticides, no chemical fertilizers. Maybe a bit of organic compost or cow dung now and then, but otherwise the Palmyra handles itself. That level of self-reliance is why it's become a staple in some of the poorest and driest regions. Unlike rice or sugarcane, which guzzle water and demand constant attention, the Palmyra thrives on neglect. In fact, the harsher the conditions, the better it seems to perform. But that's also where the paradox begins. You can plant a Palmyra in one generation, but you may not harvest from it until the next. Because while this tree is hardy, it's also unbelievably slow. A seedling won't show much more than leaves for the first 5 or 6 years. You won't see signs of flowering until year 15. And full maturity? That could take anywhere from 12 to 30 years. Still, farmers plant it, year after year, with no guarantee they'll benefit from the tree they've just put in the ground. They do it for their children, their grandchildren, their village, because once mature, the tree begins a cycle of giving that can last for over a century. And that's where the Real story begins, because after decades of silence, this tree finally starts to speak in the form of sweet, golden sap. Imagine waiting half your life for something to finally pay off. That's the quiet reality behind the Palmyra palm. Unlike the flashy, fast-growing crops that dominate industrial agriculture, Palmyra plays the long game. And when we say long, we're talking decades. This isn't just farming. It's an act of trust, endurance, and legacy. In its early years, the tree gives no hint of what it's capable of. From the outside, a young Palmyra looks almost ornamental, thin, leafy, slow to rise. It might take 5 to 6 years before it even begins to develop its characteristic thick trunk. The kind you see towering 30 meters into the sky, that takes far longer. The first sign of real change comes not through the leaves or the height, but through the flowers. And those? They won't show up until the 15th year, if you're lucky. That's when things finally shift. Long, sturdy stalks begin to emerge, each holding tight clusters of flowers. And those flowers? They're the key to everything. The sweet sap, the fruit, the toddy, the jaggery. All of it starts here. But that's assuming the tree has survived the harsh summers, strong winds, soil erosion, wild animals, and, most unpredictable of all, time. For farmers, it's a waiting game unlike any other. And this is where things get personal. Because many of the people planting these palms today know they might not be around to see them in full production. It's not a crop planted for quick profit or fast turnover. It's planted for the future. That's why in many communities, planting a Palmyra isn't just a farming act. It's a spiritual one. It's about leaving something behind that will feed, support, and protect future generations. And when the tree finally matures, that's when the real magic begins. Each fully grown Palmyra can yield multiple liters of sap every single day, especially during peak season. That sap can be turned into jaggery, fermented into toddy, or even used fresh as a natural energy drink. The fruit clusters can weigh several kilos, providing dozens of jelly-filled seeds that people crave during the summer heat. And here's the kicker. The tree will keep producing year after year, for up to 100 years or more. It's a reward that keeps giving long after the original planter is gone. But this reward doesn't come easy. It's not just the years of waiting. Once the tree begins producing, the work is far from over. In fact, it's about to become a daily test of courage. Because collecting sap from a 40-meter tall tree, that requires climbing to deadly heights every morning, often before the sun even rises. And the ones who do it, they're not just skilled, they're fearless. Up next, we go high, really high, into the trees themselves to uncover one of the most dangerous adrenaline-fueled harvests in traditional agriculture. The sun hasn't risen yet, but across rural villages in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and West Bengal, farmers are already wide awake, climbing. One by one, silhouettes move like shadows against the dawn sky, barefoot and balanced, scaling palm trees as tall as 10-story buildings. No harness, no safety net, just handmade rope belts, weathered hands, and a lifetime of inherited instinct. Because up there at the very top of these towering trees is something locals call karapati. You might know it as palm jaggery, but in its rawest form, it's something even more valuable, liquid gold. And to get it, you have to risk everything. Each Palmyra tree has long, flowering stalks, called inflorescences, which begin to appear once the tree matures. These stalks are where the sap hides, sealed inside tightly packed fibers. But the tree won't give it up willingly. Farmers have to coax it out, gently but precisely. Once at the top, they make a small, calculated incision near the base of the flower stalk. Not too deep, or they'll damage the tissue. Not too shallow, or the sap won't flow. Then they tie clay pots or bamboo containers underneath to collect the slow, rhythmic drip of sweet liquid that begins to form, drop by precious drop. This collection happens twice a day, once before sunrise and again before sunset. That means 2 climbs, 2 chances to slip, misstep, or lose your grip. And yet, these harvesters do it with quiet confidence, often starting from their teenage years and continuing well into old age. It's not just a skill, it's an identity. And what they collect, it's perishable. Within just a few hours, the sap begins to ferment. If left alone, it transforms into toddy, a locally cherished alcoholic drink. Light, fizzy, and sweet, toddy is sold and shared in village taverns and family gatherings, often seen not as a vice, but as tradition. But if the sap is boiled immediately, it becomes jaggery, a dense, mineral-rich sugar with deep caramel notes and a cult following in Indian cooking. This dark, earthy sweetener has fueled kitchens for centuries and is now seeing a revival as a so-called superfood, thanks to its iron, calcium, and magnesium content. Either way, the sap has to be handled fast. There's no factory, no conveyor belt, just flame, smoke, and muscle. Villagers work in pairs, one climbing, one boiling, both depending on each other to make the most of each drop. And while the dangers of the climb are obvious, there's another layer most people don't see: the economic risk. If it rains, the sap is ruined. If the tree gets stressed, it stops producing. And if the market dips, all that effort becomes loss. So why do they still climb? Because for many families, this is survival. A single tree can support a household. A grove can support an entire village. And when the sap begins to flow, it means the tree has finally kept its promise. But the Palmyra's gifts don't end there, because just beneath those flower stalks hides another treasure, a fruit so strange, so seasonal, and so beloved, it's practically a ritual. It starts as a single drop, clear, sweet, and quietly dripping into a clay pot tied 40 feet above the ground. But once that sap touches the earth, it begins a transformation. In villages across South India, this is where the alchemy happens, where an ordinary tree gives birth to 2 very different, yet equally powerful creations: toddy and jaggery. Let's start with toddy. If you leave the fresh sap alone for just a few hours, nature takes over. Fermentation begins, thanks to wild yeasts in the air, and the sap starts to fizz. The result? A cloudy, mildly alcoholic drink that's as old as the palm tree itself. Locals call it kalu or toddy, and it's a staple in many rural communities. But don't confuse it with mass-market alcohol. This isn't bottled in factories or sold on supermarket shelves. It's a hyper-local tradition, passed from hand to hand, village to village. In some places, toddy tappers are officially licensed and respected figures. In others, the drink is shared during festivals or family milestones, sipped slowly as the sun sets over the fields. Its taste? Sweet, tangy, with a hint of wildness, like coconut water with a twist. Its effect? Gentle, more about warmth than intoxication. In fact, for many older generations, toddy is seen less as a drink and more as a symbol of labor, land, and legacy. But not all sap ferments. Some of it takes a different path, boiled, stirred, and transformed over fire into something far more solid. Jaggery. Jaggery, or karapati in Tamil, is nothing short of culinary gold. It begins the moment fresh sap is filtered and poured into massive iron cauldrons set over roaring wood fires. The pot boils for hours, constantly stirred with wooden paddles to prevent burning. As the water evaporates, the liquid thickens, darkens, and deepens into a rich amber syrup. When the texture is just right, it's poured into coconut shell molds or flat trays to cool. The result? blocks of dark, fragrant sugar, soft enough to break by hand, sweet enough to rival honey, and dense with minerals like iron, magnesium, and potassium. This isn't just a sweetener. It's medicine. It's trade. It's tradition. In rural kitchens, Jaggery is used in everything from teas and porridges to desserts and Ayurvedic remedies. In cities, it's now making a comeback as a clean sugar alternative, organic, unrefined, and packed with nutrients that white sugar lacks. And economically, Jaggery is a lifeline. In 2023 alone, India produced over 1.5 million tons of Jaggery, a significant portion of it from Palmyra sap. Some is sold locally. Some is exported across Asia and the Middle East. But for the farmers who make it, every block counts. It's income, it's sustenance, it's pride, and here's what makes it all more incredible. This entire process is done without machines. No automation, no conveyor belts, just human hands, open flames, and a recipe that hasn't changed in centuries. In a world of industrial farming, the Palmyra remains defiantly old school. It's a tree that refuses to be rushed, and maybe that's why its products are so rich, so deep, so real. But while the sap often takes center stage, it's not the only gift this tree offers. Because once summer hits, the spotlight shifts from the flower stalks to the fruit clusters. And inside those heavy, black fruits is something you wouldn't expect. A jelly-like delicacy that's not only delicious, but essential for surviving the brutal tropical heat. As the scorching summer months roll in, April to June, the Palmyra palm begins to offer something entirely different. This time, the harvest isn't high in the sky, but hidden deep within clusters of dark, round fruits that weigh heavy at the crown of the female trees. At first glance, these fruits look tough, almost uninviting. Their thick, black husks resemble charred coconuts and feel just as firm. But inside, there's a secret. Crack one open, and you'll find 3 translucent, jelly-like pods nestled within. These soft, seed-like pockets are filled with a cool, watery pulp, mildly sweet, deeply hydrating, and almost otherworldly in texture. Locals call it nangu in Tamil, tal in Bengali, or ice apple in English. And if you've never tried one on a sweltering day, you're missing out. It's more than just a refreshing snack. It's a summer survival food. In villages where temperatures can soar above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius, this fruit becomes an edible form of hydration. It's packed with water, electrolytes, and natural sugars, making it the perfect antidote to heat exhaustion. No surprise then that ice apple stalls pop up across South India every summer, selling peeled fruits served with Jaggery syrup, lemon juice, or shaved ice. Simple, ancient, irreplaceable, and just like the sap, harvesting this fruit is a skill in itself. Some farmers still climb the trees, while others use long bamboo poles with hooked blades to pull the clusters down. Once harvested, the fruits must be processed quickly because the jelly inside is incredibly perishable. Left too long in the heat, it turns bitter and unusable. But even beyond the jelly, the Palmyra fruit doesn't disappoint. The fibrous outer pulp of overripe fruits is used to make traditional sweets and fermented beverages. In some regions, it's dried and powdered into flour or mixed with grains to make porridge. Rich in vitamins A and C, the fruit's flesh has also found its way into herbal medicine, where it's used to cool the body and treat digestive issues. And here's the twist. Unlike many commercial fruits, Palmyra's jelly pods are completely natural and untouched by chemical preservatives or wax coatings. What you see is what you get. Raw, clean, and straight from the tree. In a world obsessed with processed sugar and factory-grown snacks, the Palmyra fruit stands out as a raw reminder of what food used to be and still can be. But we're still not done, because while the fruit and sap get all the attention, the rest of the tree, its leaves, trunk, roots, and even its bark, holds a staggering range of uses that are often overlooked. Tools, roofs, baskets, ink, medicine, the list goes on. Up next, we uncover why the Palmyra isn't just a tree of food, but a tree of survival. If the sap is liquid gold and the fruit is summer salvation, then the rest of the Palmyra palm is everything else. Because unlike most crops that give one product and wither away, this tree doesn't leave anything behind. Every part, every trunk, leaf, bark, and root serves a purpose. And when we say 1,000 uses, we're not exaggerating. Researchers have documented over 800 verified applications for the Palmyra palm, and many more are still passed down through oral tradition. Let's start with the leaves. Wide, fan-shaped, and surprisingly durable, Palmyra leaves are the original all-purpose packaging. Before plastic ever existed, these leaves were used to wrap food, cover roofs, weave baskets, and even craft handheld fans and brooms. In some rural regions, they still serve as roofing material, stitched together into shingles that resist rain and sun for years. Lightweight, biodegradable, and abundant. These leaves are the definition of sustainable design. But the story gets even more fascinating. Centuries ago, before paper was widely available, people in South India and Sri Lanka used dried palm leaves as writing material. Monks and scholars etched texts into the leaf surface with sharpened tools, creating sacred manuscripts and literary records that still survive today. These palm leaf manuscripts are now UNESCO-protected cultural heritage items. So yes, the Palmyra doesn't just feed people. It carried knowledge across generations. Next, the trunk. Sturdy and fibrous, the trunk is often harvested from older trees no longer producing fruit or sap. Once dried, it becomes a multi-purpose building material used in scaffolding, fencing, furniture, even cooking fuel. The inner wood is termite-resistant and incredibly strong, making it ideal for use in boats, huts, and even ladders. Nothing goes to waste. Even the roots and shoots have their role. Young shoots, called Palmyra sprouts, are edible. They're boiled, stir-fried, or pickled, and are rich in fiber and antioxidants. In traditional medicine, parts of the root are used to treat respiratory issues and skin conditions. Some villagers even burn the bark to create black ink or natural dye, used for painting, tattooing, or religious rituals. And in modern times, the tree is getting a second wind. Researchers and entrepreneurs are rediscovering Palmyra as a model for circular farming and sustainability. Its low water needs and multi-layered usefulness make it a potential game-changer in regions facing climate stress. In a warming world with shrinking resources, a crop that provides food, materials, medicine, and income, all without needing constant care, suddenly looks like a miracle. So when you hear tree of 1,000 uses, it's not just poetic, it's literal. For centuries, the Palmyra has quietly sustained entire communities, feeding them, housing them, protecting them. And it's still doing it today. But the story doesn't end there. Because what makes this tree so remarkable isn't just what it gives, but how it reflects the people who care for it. Patient, resilient, resourceful, and deeply rooted in tradition. And in our final section, we take one last look at the bond between the tree and the farmer, and why this ancient partnership still matters in the modern world. Rooted in legacy, growing into the future, in a world racing toward faster, bigger, and cheaper, the Palmyra palm stands quietly in defiance, a symbol of patience in a culture obsessed with speed. It doesn't grow in months. It doesn't bloom on demand. It takes years, sometimes decades, before it gives back. But when it does, it gives everything, from the sweet, golden sap that fuels village economies, to the tender jelly fruits that offer relief in the peak of summer, to the leaves that once carried scripture and still roof homes today, to the wood, the roots, the shoots. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is forgotten. And perhaps that's what makes this tree so extraordinary. It's not just about what it produces. It's about what it represents. Each tree planted is an act of trust, an investment not in quick profit, but in future generations, in tradition, in sustainability. It's a living contract between land and people, signed in sweat and sap and decades of care. And yet, outside of the regions that depend on it, the Palmyra is still largely unknown, overshadowed by trendier crops, forgotten by industrial agriculture, and slowly disappearing from the global conversation. But maybe that's starting to change. As the world faces climate stress, soil degradation, and water scarcity, the Palmyra offers something rare, a solution that's ancient and sustainable, already tested by time and proven to work. It doesn't ask for much, but it gives a lot. And the farmers who continue this work, the climbers, the sap collectors, the Jaggery makers, they're the quiet heroes of an old story that still holds meaning today. So the next time you enjoy a piece of palm sugar, or see palm fruit on a street vendor's cart, or pass a lone tree standing tall under a burning sky, you'll know that tree carries a story. And now, so do you. If this story moved you, help us keep it alive. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share this with someone who needs to know about the incredible Palmyra palm. Drop a comment below. What surprised you the most? Have you ever tasted palm fruit or seen a toddy climber in action? We'd love to hear your story. Together, let's keep celebrating the traditions that feed us, connect us, and remind us to slow down and grow something that truly lasts. We'll see you in the next episode of factoryX. Until then, stay curious.